what I'd like to do is just talk about Wessex Insight for a second or two. So, Nigel, perhaps you'd like to introduce it.
Yes, Wessex Insight was an idea that was formulated a few years ago, and it was a collaboration between the LMC, the Deanery, and a few other people having a discussion not so much about the GPs who were going through the performance procedure, but the number of GPs who were having difficulties with their clinical practice, whether it might be related to time management, to inability to cope with the working day, a whole host of other reasons. And what we did is we put some funding aside, and we then worked with the Deanery, where people who identified that they had particular needs could come forward. One of the medical directors of the LMC would have a discussion with them to see whether the issues were health related, whether they were truly performance related, or where they were people who had needs which weren't really met by any other place in the system. Then after that we worked with the Deanery, where there was an assessment done where then these people could access help. And a lot of that was done through GP mentors, and there were some other things that were put in place. And these were, the output of that was tailored to the needs of the individual. And the funding then was matched between the LMC and the individual. It was thought important that the individual contributed 50% of the cost and the LMC contributed 50% of the cost. That money from the LMC came from work we do for various bodies where we generate some income and we put it into a separate pot and used to help and support GPs. And over the last 5 or 6 years, a number of GPs have gone through Wessex Insight, and I've actually found at the end of it that they're able to continue practice, have resolved a lot of their issues, and their performance has improved as a result. So I think it's a really important tool, not for people that are failing, but people who are struggling, who need some professional, independent, supportive care, which is really focused on their individual needs.
Do you have any experience of seeing doctors that have been through the Wessex Insight process?
We do, both as a consequence of appraisal advice, but also individual access through myself and sometimes through the LMC as well. So people will access Insight and have accessed Insight through a number of different mechanisms, and universally they find that it's helpful. Whether or not it's sorted all their problems out, I think depends on the significance and extent of the underlying issues that are there. But it certainly picks people up at an early stage when, as Nigel said, they are just beginning to struggle, but recognise that rather than they've reached the point whereby they either fail or hit my radar as medical director, and therefore there's a performance issue that's arisen.
There's two really important bits to this. One is insight, so the person does have to have the insight that they have an issue and they want help with it. The second is this is purely voluntary. So nobody can be forced to go through this. So anybody that enters it is doing it with a knowledge that they are seeking help and being offered help in a constructive way. And I think both those elements make it a very positive experience for most of the people going through it.